old player in the game of air travel. And now it must retire. Time for one final touchdown. Over the past 24 years, this plane has flown enough to circle the world 1,200 times. Now, it's arrived at a desert tarmac in Goodyear, Arizona. This is the home of Aero Turbine, a company that specializes in all things aircraft.
Let's go ahead and prep these.
Roger Hodges is the maintenance manager. Usually he repairs aircraft, but this one is different for one good reason.
It's worth more dead than alive.
So basically,
This 747 is now beyond repair. It's old and too expensive to maintain. But rather than trash it, Roger will make sure it's carefully pulled apart, piece by piece.
Just like cars or anything else aren't going to last forever. There's still many parts within the airframe and engines that are worth sending to overhaul. 30% of this airplane will be utilized in future 747s.
The Jumbo's parts are so interchangeable because the plane's basic design has changed little since its first commercial flight in 1970. Back then, it took several hundred people and 4 months to make a plane. Now, just a handful of mechanics will attempt to tear one apart in only 12 weeks. Among them, Derek Pfeiffer. He runs the crew from the ground.
we'll get in there with a ratchet and a socket and get them out.
Lyle Bonebrake is in charge of snakes on this plane. While Pete Faulkner will try to dodge them.
That was good. That was Jesus.
All are experts in their own right. Only one problem. None of them have ever pulled apart an aircraft this big. This is a first.
The Boeing 747 is the biggest aircraft we had to tear down so far. All right, you ready?
It's by far maybe the biggest challenge.
It's just huge. We don't want to damage it. We don't want to get hurt.
Everything they do will be a learning experience. They must rely heavily on the manuals that were used to build this plane more than 2 decades ago.
Big parts. Everything's like 4 to 5 times heavier than we're accustomed to. Takes tooling, takes slings to be able to handle that kind of weight. See that junk in the back?
It'll be a 4-step process. First, workers must gently remove the engines, 4 elephant-sized jets, to be handled like eggs.
Down a little bit. Go.
Second, they must remove and inventory any resellable item, from piping to coffee makers.
65 Bravo, 94.
All can return to service on other aircraft.
Get over there. You ready?
Third, they must extract hazardous material, like depleted uranium, and take it to a safe location. Workers will also strip and trash anything else of little value, like worn seat covers and insulation. Finally, they must crush the remaining metal so it can be melted into solid bars of aluminum. And from there, made into other objects like electronics, hardware, even furniture. The aim is to recycle an incredible 98% of the aircraft and reclaim spare parts and scrap worth about $6.8 million. The team starts by detaching the biggest and most valuable items, the 4 engines, each weighing 5.4 tons. An engine can cost $5 million. Even these second-hand engines, if carefully removed, can still fetch $1.5 million each.
This particular airplane, it arrived, the engines were sold when it came here. So, of course, that was the first thing. They're in high demand.
The new owner wants the engines back in service without delay.
We just try to do it, in a timely manner, and just as long as everybody's safe.
The team is on the clock. 2 engines are mounted under each wing. They are the muscles that propel this beast. In flight, they power the 747 to speeds upward of 900 kilometers per hour.
Start loosening up the bolts.
To remove them, mechanics must essentially disconnect 2 systems.
Okay, you can come down.
At lower altitudes, where the air is thicker, 38 internal fan blades drive a turbofan system. But at high altitudes, the air is too thin for the fans to work alone. A core compressor takes over. It sucks air into the opening and compresses it so it's under pressure, like the air that blows up car tires. The compressed air mixes with the fuel. This combination is ignited to create the combustion that propels the airplane. The mechanics must disconnect the 2 systems that drive each engine and lower them all in one piece. And they must do it fast for the new owner. They clip 16 electrical connectors, detach 3 hydraulic lines,
10-4, thank you.
cap the main fuel supply, and undo 375 fasteners. One wrong move and someone could be killed. No one understands that more than mechanic Dean Klepper.
Well, if it comes forward, it might come forward.
It's very dangerous work. Aircraft shift can knock you over. When you're running engines, you can be sucked in, blown over. The industry is very dangerous.
Dean's brother was also an aircraft mechanic. In 2003, Rick Klepper was crushed when an engine slipped from a forklift.
The motor all disconnected. They were backing the engine away on a forklift. The cable got hung up. The engine put a little tension on the cable. The forklift swung the engine forward, pinned my brother against the aircraft. It ruptured his heart and one lung, and he died right on the spot.
Dean keeps a picture of Rick on the back of his ID badge. A close reminder for everyone to watch their step.
Wait.
It takes 3 mechanics about 4 hours to prepare an engine for removal.
So hold on. Power. Loosen up a little bit.
They hook up the hoist kit to support the first engine.
Howard, I'm going to pull down a little bit, all right? So hold on. Howard.
A slip with a 5.4-ton engine could be catastrophic.
Loosen up a little bit. Down the front. Yeah.
And they have 4 of these giants to get down.
So we can come up even.
Getting a 747's engine safely to the ground requires a team effort.
Howard, I'm going to pull down a little bit, all right? All right, Howard. That'll work. All right, now hold that. 44? That's about good. Come down a little bit.
The mouth of each engine yawns nearly 3 meters across.
These engines weigh like 11,500 pounds.
These tailor-made slings will catch and cradle the nearly 6-ton machines to ensure neither the engines nor the crew are damaged in the process.
We want the chain falls even, so when we get ready to come down with the engine will try to swing on us.
Okay.
Finally, they gently lower the first engine. It takes a week for the mechanics to remove all the engines, but it's well worth it. The 4 engines will deliver a total of $6 million. But the job doesn't end here. To get the most from this aircraft, they still need to find another $800,000 in spare parts. Their next job is the new priority for cash and for safety. Inside each 747 wing sit 2 giant fuel tanks and a reserve tank. Each wing can hold 64,000 liters of fuel. A central tank under the seats holds an additional 64,000 liters. This aircraft arrived with its wing tanks about 20% full. They must be emptied now so the tanks have time to dry out. If the tanks aren't dry by the time workers demolish the fuselage, the plane could explode. This is no simple stop and pump operation. Access to this highly flammable liquid sits 9 meters in the air. Stephen Collins is specially trained for defueling aircraft.
Yeah, all these airplanes that come in, we recycle all the fuel that comes off of them.
But this is Stephen's first 747, and there's a problem.
Dane, are you there?
Go ahead.
He can't get the fuel out.
We have no fuel movement down here.
He coordinates with mechanic Dane Zimmerman in the cockpit.
Go ahead and shut everything down. I'm going to close the valves.
The problem is a safety latch on the tank. It's unique to this type of plane, but an easy fix. And they finish extracting the fuel. $30,000 worth. Until this point, the plane has been operating on its own power. Now, that power must be shut off so electronics can be safely removed. It's a major step in the journey from aircraft to scrap.
Okay, fueling's done. We're going to kill power. Get my tools, pull out these instruments.
No power means no air conditioning for the crew working in the confined spaces of the aircraft's innards. Dane must remove more than 100 cockpit instruments. They're extremely fragile and must be taken out early on to reduce the chance of accidental damage. But now the temperature rises for every minute he's in the cabin.
This is the 22nd day this summer. The mercury will hit 110 degrees or more.
Teardowns normally take place in the hangar, but this jumbo is too jumbo to fit through the hangar doors.
That's double the number of super hot days Phoenix usually has.
The plane must stay out, and the crew must work in the heat. Outside, mechanics start to unscrew, unhook, and unfasten this 747 piece by piece. But soon, it's like pulling apart a furnace.
Take the airplane apart outside, this heat is draining and just is draining us.
To beat the sun, the crew arrives at 5 a.m. But there's little relief, even at this hour.
And the thermometer already reads 99. It's gonna get much hotter.
The scorching heat makes the metal hot to touch and dangerous to work with. The real work has only just begun.
A little bit of oil.
This 747 bakes in the Arizona sun. The cabin becomes an oven. Dane Zimmerman keeps sweating to remove this old jumbo's cockpit gauges. But Dane's job is an important part of recycling this aircraft. Most, if not all, of these gauges will be recalibrated and sold. They'll still work on newer 747s and other aircraft. On the second-hand market, they'll fetch around $75,000. Those cockpit instruments sit in a location unique among aircraft, the second story. The 747 is the only passenger plane to have one. The aircraft can hold 175 cubic meters of cargo, or with seats, 452 passengers.